Whew, feels good to get it out. You know, holding in all that gas doesn't feel good. But have you ever been endlessly scrolling, convinced that your next purchase is going to make you a creative genius? Sounds like you have gear acquisition syndrome. In the industry, they call it gas. So today I want to talk about, is it fueling your career or is it holding you back? Let's dive in. First, let's talk about the pros. There's a million upsides to getting new gear. We all know it. But I'm going to say my number one reason is going to be to boost creativity. There's nothing like getting that new camera, that new lens, that new light, that new piece of gear that just makes you want to create something new. Sometimes you can get a little stagnant having the same things. I think people get caught in their head. Sometimes people just get unmotivated by having the same gear. But it's really not the gear, it's the shooter, it's the idea, it's the concept. For number two, I think it's a better quality that'll come out of it. Don't get me wrong, like I said before, in one, the lighting, the lenses, that'll get you pretty much 90% of the way. But sometimes you do get a sharper image out of a camera that's, let's say, made for video. If you're doing video work, you might want something that's 8K. Who knows what you're doing personally? I'm okay with 4K, and I like that I get a true 4K out of the camera that I have. Some people want like a 7K downsample, like my old camera, the A7 IV. Some of my friends shoot with Lumix. It's like an open gate 6K. But basically what you're gonna get is just a better final product, whether that be cleaner image, richer sound, better performance. No matter what though, if you are upgrading, you're probably looking for a better image quality. For number three, I'm gonna say each piece you buy comes with a learning curve, which in theory lets you build your skill set. So any new piece of gear you get, you're gonna need to learn it. And when you learn it, you've now acquired a new skill. And you can use that on paid jobs, passion projects, whatever it is. But if you stay with the same the entire time, did you learn anything? Or maybe you did. Everybody's different. I just think sometimes you do have to graduate, just like, in school. You have to go to the next level. So if it's working for you, I understand 100%, but I do believe that new gear will help you sharpen your skill set. Number four for me is going to be excitement. New gear can really reignite your creativity. So like if you are seriously down and out and you just can't think, maybe grabbing a new lens is going to make you really want to go do something. So I do believe that number four should be just, being motivated again, having the time or having the want to go out and create. That's a huge thing in this industry. And if you don't really like what you're doing, you're going to burn out real fast. It's simple. And number five, which will be my last one before we move on, is just going to be professional edge, industry standard, basically. One thing that having new gear will keep you on a competitive edge against all the people that, are going for the same jobs as you. And it'll have a better industry standard feeling. So when you do apply for a job, people are going to ask you, do you have certain kinds of cameras? It just is what it is. And sometimes upgrading to that will get you in a position that you want to be in. So if you've got the money and you really do want to be competitive with all of the other people in your area doing the same work as you sometimes do need to spend that money. Like I said, let's just track back a little. Lights, lenses, ideas. That's what's really going to sell anything. But a company, they don't care about that. They want industry standard. It's just kind of like how Netflix has a industry standard. They won't let you shoot a movie with an A7 IV, even if it's amazing. And in theory, if it is amazing, maybe they'll buy it from you, the idea. You'll probably end up reshooting it with a camera that's in their camera list. They don't let you shoot outside of that. So A big thing to think about is industry standard and where you want to be. But if you are doing a lot of passion work and you are doing a lot of projects for content, an A7 IV, A7 III, any Canon, I'm guessing a lot of the Fujis, I've only shot with an X-T4. All of those are going to be fine for content creation. So do with that as you will. All right, let's talk about the cons. You are going to have to spend a lot of money to get to where you want to be. The camera industry, it's not cheap. So if you are really interested in getting in this, you do need to start making plans on your future goals. Make some goals. Like I set out that I wanted the camera I have 3 years ago. I just got it at the end of last year. So you got to think it does take time. I did have to work through all of my progression. I did have to learn how to use my last camera before I even felt I was, I don't want to say worthy, but ready to go into a better system. So it's up to you. But what I will say is it just gets costly. On this list for the cons is going to be it's distracting. Gear is awesome, but what it will really do is distract you from going to create. Pick up your camera, go outside, touch grass. Like there's not going to be anything that's going to get in the way of that. And gear, sometimes obsessing over things you don't have will stop you from creating things that you might be able to create just with your camera. When I had the A7 IV is a great example. When I had the A7 IV, I wanted to make this moody kind of like tarot card video, me and my girlfriend. I thought it wasn't really going to be possible with the camera that I had, but once I went back and looked at the footage, it's still to date one of my favorite. It still rivals my FX3 currently, and this is on the A7 IV. So it's not all about what you have, it's more about your idea and how you're going to bring it to life. We set up candles, I did some tracking, some hands. She was already really good with tarot cards, so you got to think it does take a little bit of production value to get what you want. So don't just worry about what you don't have. Use what you do have. Number 3, man, this is a real one. Better gear does not instantly mean you are better at what you do. So even if you get better tools in a mechanic world, that doesn't make you a better mechanic. You have to know how to use the tools. So even at the end of this all, if you go spend $4,000 on a camera you don't know how to use, the learning curve will be the same. So I would, take my time with that and kind of try to figure out what the goals are, because you still need to learn your skill set no matter how much money you spend. You can go buy an FX9 or a Venice tomorrow. It's not going to make you a better shooter instantly. Yes, you will have a better final result maybe, but I know people, I could hand the person a camera right now, one of the best cameras, versus me knowing what I'm doing. They're not going to get a better image if they don't know how to work the camera. It doesn't matter. So take your time, learn your things before you go spend obscene amount of money. Just take your time. Number 4, and here's a big thing I have an issue with still to this day. Clutter. The more stuff you buy, the more clutter you obtain. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. If you've got all the things you need and you just double down on it, you have just added more space. And if you don't have storage, like I luckily kind of have some storage in the house, it's going to just be everywhere. It's going to be a mess. So it's better to not buy a bunch of things you don't need until you absolutely need them. Like I usually, it's not true all the time, because I did go through a moment where I had gas and, we all had it. I had to get it out. But at the end of the day, it's like, if you don't need it at this exact moment for a job you're doing, if you need some lights for a passion project and you want to do it, go ahead and you got the money. But I'm just saying, clutter is real. And if you don't slow down, you will have a lot of clutter. And number 5, the last one of the cons, decision paralysis. So what you're really going to end up doing is agonizing over what you want instead of working on your craft. And at the end of the day, we don't want that. We want you out there working on your craft, figuring out how to get from point A to point B with what you already have. All the stars will align when it's time for you to buy what you need, and you'll know when it's time. Everyone does. But if you don't need it, you will sit around thinking that your, A7 III isn't good enough because it came out in 2019. I see amazing work out of that camera, especially if you use Dehancer and use my code High Grade Visuals. You know what I mean? Like, come on, it's easy. There's other videos on this page if you really want to know, but I'm just saying, these older cameras are fine. Technology hasn't moved that fast in the last 6 years. It really hasn't. There's nowhere else to go. So, in my opinion, there's so many things in the market that you could spend your money on. And maybe I'll make another video about that. The things like that would be a smart move if you're kind of starting a beginner video. But for now, I'm just saying, you don't want to think about the things you don't have. You just want to go out there and do what you can and make the best of what you have. At the end of the day, gear acquisition syndrome isn't all bad or good. It's about finding the balance and buying tools that genuinely support your vision. But just remember, the true engine to your craft is your passion and your drive. It's not the gear. So, if we're being honest, it's not the worst thing. But you tell me what you think in the comments. Go ahead and like and follow, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.